And good evening, everyone. We're here once again at the Road Angel Cooker Center on exit 68 and I-70 in Illinois, right next to the little town of Brownstown, near Vandalia, about 70 miles east of St. Louis. And it's good to see you here all tonight. Both those that are out there in YouTube land that I can't see, but can see me, and those here in the chapel. We're going to be continuing tonight with our journey through First Chronicles, starting in chapter 7, where we left off last time. Last time we had Brother Mark here to do our Bible study, and I'd ask you to bear with me because I probably won't be able to pronounce the names as well as he does. He does a very good job of that. But this evening we'll be starting in chapter 7 and try and get through 2 or 3 chapters here that I have prepared. And that will bring us up to where we find the beginning of a recount of Saul's story here in Chronicles. As we have referred to Chronicles many times in the past, either the kings or details that were not present there. Now we get to go through Chronicles in its whole and see what it says. But before we do so, I would like to invite you all to come by here in person and enjoy our free parking, free showers, laundry facilities, free food, our good Christian fellowship more than anything. And we have chapel services on Sunday at 10 and our Bible studies on Thursdays at 7:30 as well, repeat. And I'd like to ask the Lord if He would bless our meeting here tonight as well. And Father God, I thank you that you have again blessed us in our coming in, that you have brought us here together around your living word. And I ask you, Lord, that you will quicken that spirit you placed in our hearts, that gives us a hunger for your word, that leads us into all wisdom. Show each of us that wisdom you have laid up for us in our walk with you tonight. And Lord, I ask that you would send some of those out there to come past in person and enjoy our service to them in the name of your Son. And most of all, I thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, whose substitutionary sacrifice on the cross brought our salvation through faith in him. And in his name I pray, and amen. Now, here we are in First Chronicles, starting in chapter 7, with some genealogies. We're going to have Issachar, Benjamin, Naphtali, Manasseh, Ephraim, and Asher here. You'll find there's no account of either Zebulun or Dan. We don't have a clear reason why they're omitted. Dan had something of a disgrace as idolatry began in that colony of the Danites in Laish, it was called Dan. And one of the golden calves was set up by Jeroboam there as well. But Zebulun and Dan you won't find in the genealogies here. But we'll start out with chapter 7 here, in verses 1 to 19, where we'll get a short view of the tribes as we go along. Let's turn back to chapter 7 here. There we go. And we'll read verses 1 to 19 and then comment. Now the sons of Issachar were Tola and Puah and Jashub and Shimron, 4. And the sons of Tola, Uzi and Raphiah and Jeriel and Jamai and Jibsam and Shemuel, heads of their father's house, to wit of Tola. They were valiant men of might in their generations, whose number was in the days of David 22,600. And the sons of Uzi, Irahiah, and the sons of Izrahiah, Michael and Obadiah and Joel and Ishiah, 5, all of them chief men. And with them, by their generations after the house of their fathers, were bands of soldiers for war, 36,000 men, for they had many wives and sons. And their brethren among all the families of Issachar were valiant men of might, reckoned in all by their genealogies, 7,000. The sons of Benjamin, Bela and Becher and Jediel, 3. And the sons of Bela, Ezbon and Uzi and Uziel and Jeremoth and Eri, 5, heads of the house of their fathers. Mighty men of valor were reckoned by their genealogies 22,034. And the sons of Becher, Zemira and Joash and Eleazar and Elioenai and Omri and Jeremoth and Abiah and Anathoi and Alameth. All these are the sons of Becher. And the number of them, after their genealogy, by their generations, heads of the house of their fathers, mighty men of valor, was 20,200. The sons of Jediel, Bilhan, and the sons of Bilhan, Jeush, and Benjamin, and Ehud, and Chenaanah, and Zephan, and Tarshish, and Ahishahar. All these, the sons of Jediel, by the heads of their fathers, mighty men of valor, were 17,200 soldiers, fit to go out to war and battle. Shupim also, and Hupim, the children of Ir, and Hushim, the sons of Aher. The sons of Naphtali, Jehaziel, and Guni, and Jezer, and Shalom, the sons of Bilhah. The sons of Manasseh, Ashriel, whom she bare, but his concubine, the Amorites, bare Machir, the father of Gilead. And Machir took to wife the sister of Hupim and Shupim, whose sister's name was Maacah, and the name of the second was Zelophehad, and Zelophehad had daughters. And Maacah, the wife of Machir, bare a son, and she called his name Peresh. And the name of his brother was Cheresh, and his sons were Ulam and Rakim. And the sons of Ulam, Beden, these were the sons of Gilead, the sons of Machir, the son of Manasseh. And his sister, Amoleketh, bare Ishah, and Abiezer, and Mahalah. And the sons of Shemida were Ahiam, and Shechem, and Lehi, and Aniam. And that brings us to verse 19. So we have a little view of the tribe of Issachar, who Jacob, back in Genesis 49, compared to a strong ass crouching between two burdens. They're an industrious tribe. They minded their country's business, and they very close and rejoiced in their tents, as it says in Deuteronomy 33:18. And here we appear that this is a numerous tribe. They had many wives, first said. They were a valiant tribe, men of might, it says in verse 2 and 5, chief men in verse 3. They were used to labor, they were used to business, and fit to serve their country when there was occasion. Now the number of the respective families, as taken in the days of David, is set down here, amounting in the whole, if you add it up, to above 145,000 men fit for war. Now, some think this account was taken when Joab numbered the people, back in 2 Samuel 24, where we read in verse 1, And again the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. And he moved David against them to say, Go, number Israel and Judah. For the king said to Joab, the captain of the host, which was with him, Go now through all the tribes of Israel from Dan, even to Beersheba, and number ye the people, that I may know the number of the people. However, whenever we get to Chronicles 27 and verse 24, it seems that that account was not inserted into the Chronicles of David. That count having offended God. In 1 Chronicles 27 and verse 24, it says that Joab, the son of Jeruiah, began to number, but he finished not, because there fell wrath for it against Israel. Neither was the number put in the account of the Chronicles of David. So this likely comes from some other counting that had been done, either by the individual tribes or someone else. Now, the tribes of Benjamin likewise are mentioned. We get some account here. We get a larger account in the next chapter. The militia here is scarcely 60,000, but they are mighty men of valor, it says, in verse 7 and verse 9 and verse 11, when it tells us that they're quite confident of that. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf, we remember, from Genesis 49:27, where Benjamin will raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. So they were fewer, but very mighty individually. It's the honor of this tribe also that it produces Saul, the first king, which we'll get up to his story by the end of the evening, if we're lucky. And also its honor that when the rightful kings of the house of David were revolted against, they stayed loyal. Now, tribes of Naphtali, verse 13. The first fathers of the tribes are named. Those same ones we'll find in Genesis 46 and verse 24. None of the descendants are named, maybe because the genealogies are lost. We don't know. Then we get to Manasseh. Now, the part of it that is within Jordan. The other part we had back in chapter 5. Now, on this tribe, it mentions that one of them married an Aramitess, that is Syrian, there in verse 14. That would be during their bondage in Egypt. They very early began to mingle with other nations. Although the father married a Syrian, Machir, the son of that marriage, maybe seeing the inconvenience his father had perhaps, took a wife that was a daughter of Benjamin, there in verse 15. And we have a mention here of Bedan in verse 17. Perhaps the same Bedan who's mentioned as one of Israel's deliverers in 1 Samuel chapter 12 and verse 11, where we read, And the Lord sent Jerubbaal and Bedan and Jephthah and Samuel and delivered you out of the hand of your enemies on every side, and ye dwelt safe. And that brings us up to verse 20. Now, we're going to run through verse 20 all the way down to the end of the chapter here, and then we will discuss those, verse 20 through 40. And the sons of Ephraim, Shuthalah, and Bered his son, and Tahath his son, and Eldath his son, and Tahath his son, and Zabad his son, and Shuthalah his son, and Ezer, and Eliad, whom the men of Gath that were born in that land slew, because they came down to take away their cattle. And Ephraim their father mourned many days, and his brethren came to comfort him. And when he went into his wife, she conceived, and bare a son, and he called his name Beriah, because it went evil with his house. And his daughter was Sherah, who built Beth Horon, and Nether, and the upper, and Uzan Sherah. And Repha was his son, also Resheph, and Telah his son, and Tahan his son. Now Ladan his son, Amihud, yet his son, Elishama his son, Non his son, Jehoshua his son. And their possessions and habitations were Bethel and the towns thereof, and eastward Naran, and westward Gezer, with the towns thereof, Shechem also and towns thereof, unto Gaza and the towns thereof. And by the borders of the children of Manasseh, Beth Shean and her towns, Tanakh and her towns, Megiddo and her towns, Dor and her towns. In these dwelt the children of Joseph, the son of Israel. The sons of Asher, Imnah, and Isua, and Ishuai, and Beriah, and Sarah, and their sister. Yeah. And the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malchiel, who is the father of Berzavith. And Heber begat Japhlet, and Shomer, and Hotham, and Shua, their sister. And the sons of Japhlet, Pasak, and Bimhal, and Ashvath. These are the children of Japhlet. And the sons of Shamer, Ahi, and Rohgah, and Jehovah, and Aram. And the sons of his brother, Elam, Zophah, and Imnah, and Shelesh, and Ammah. The sons of Zophah, Sua, and Harnepher, and Shual, and Beri, and Imrah. Bezer, and Hod, and Shammah, and Shilshah, and Ithram, and Beerah. And the sons of Jether, Jephuneth, Bizpah, and Ara. And the sons of Ulah, Erah, and Haniel, and Reziah. All these were the children of Asher, heads of their father's house, choice and mighty men of valor, chief of the princes. And the number throughout the genealogy of them that were apt to the war and to battle was 26,000 men. Now, starting here in verse 20, we've got an account of the tribe of Ephraim. We'll read great things about this tribe when it comes to its maturity, but here we have a disaster in its infancy here. While in Egypt, it would seem, Ephraim himself was alive, and still hard to imagine how it's computed here because it's 7 generations off from him. It may be that it was another Ephraim, or that those that were slain were immediately sons of Ephraim that was the son of Joseph. But we have 7 generations for the Ephraim mentioned here and the sons that are slain. In this passage, which is related here, we've got this attack on the family by the men of Gath, Philistines, giants, slew many of the sons of that family. It says because they came down to take away their cattle. They came down the land of Goshen to drive away the Ephraimites' cattle, slew the owners because they defended them, of course. Many a man's life has been exposed and betrayed to death by his own wealth. Now, their father, upon this, had great grief. Ephraim mourned many days, it says. there's very little that will bring one's head down to the grave in old age, in grief, worse than seeing the young go before you. Now, to fix this problem, to bring some retribution in some measure, there is another son added to his family in his old age, in verse 23. He gives a sad son to his name, Uriah, in trouble, it means, for he's born when the family's in mourning. This is added as a further honor to the house of Ephraim, but a daughter of that tribe, that's Sherah, we hear, built some cities, either from her own resources or by her own care as manager. One of them has her name, Uzan Sherah, there in verse 24. A son of the tribe, likewise, is employed in the conquest of Canaan, Joshua, the son of Nun, in verse 27. Then we get to the tribe of Asher. Some of the people of note in that tribe are named here. Their militia is not that numerous. It's 26,000 men. But their princes, it says, were choice and mighty men of valor. Chief of the princes, in verse 40. Which is quite a long compliment. Most people are just mighty men of valor. These are choice and mighty men of valor. Now, that brings us to the end. And chapter 8. Now, let's see. What's it over here? Chapter 8. Yeah. We had some of Benjamin in the last chapter. We have a larger catalog of them here. Out of that tribe, Saul comes, the first king of Israel. And we're getting close on to his story now, in chapter 10. The tribe would cleave to Judah, inhabit much of Jerusalem. It was one of the two tribes that went into captivity and returned back. And we will have an eye to that as well. Some of the heads of the tribe are named, and then you get a more particular account of the family of Saul. So we'll start out with verses 1 to 32, where we list most of the heads of the tribe, and then 33 to 40, where it gets into Saul's lineage, more particularly. So starting out with verses 1 to 32, and then we'll discuss those. Chapter 8 of 1 Chronicles. Now Benjamin begat Bela, his firstborn, Ashbel the second, and Aharah the third, Noah the fourth, and Rapha the fifth. And the sons of Bela were Adar, and Gera, and Abihud, and Abishua, and Naaman, and Ahoah, and Gera, and Shephuhan, and Hura. And these are the sons of Ehud. These are the heads of the fathers of the inhabitants of Geba. And they removed them to Manahath. And Naaman, and Ahiah, and Gera, he removed them, and begat Uzzah, and Elihu, and Ahihud. And Saharaim begat children in the country of Moab. And after he sent them away, Hushim and Bara were his wives. And he begat Hodesh, of Hodesh his wife, Jobab, and Zibiah, and Mesha, and Malcham, and Jeuz, and Shachia, and Mirma. These were his sons, heads of the fathers. And of Hushim he begat Abitub, and Elpal, and sons of Elpal, Eber, and Mishan, and Shamed, who built Ono, and Lod, with the towns thereof. Beriah also, and Shema, who were heads of the fathers of the inhabitants of Aijalon, who drove away the inhabitants of Gath, and Ahio, Shashak, and Jeremoth, and Zebediah, and Arad, and Ader, and Michael, and Ispa, and Jobah, the sons of Beriah, and Zebediah, and Meshullam, and Hezekiah, and Heber. Ishmerai also, and Jezliah, and Jobab, the sons of Elpal, and Jachim, and Jitri, and Hello? Oh, we're back. Let's see now. Who's the sons of Elpal? Jitri, Zabdi. Oh, okay. And Elionai, and Zilthai, and Eliel, and Adiah, and Beriah, and Shimroth, the sons of Shimhi, and Ispan, and Heber, and Eliel. Now, and Abdon, and Jitri, and Hanan, and Hananiah, and Elam, and Antothijah, Ibadiah, and Penuel, the sons of Shashak, and Shamsherai, and Shehariah, and Athaliah, and Jerasiah, and Eliah, and Jitri, the son of Jehoram. These were heads of the fathers by their generations, chief men. These dwelt in Jerusalem. And at Gibeon dwelt their father Gibeon, whose wife's name was Maacah, and his firstborn son Abdon, and Zur, and Kish, and Baal, and Nadab, and Gedor, and Ahio, and Zachar, and Mikloth begat Shemaiah. And these also dwelt with their brethren in Jerusalem, over against them. There. We'll end up there before we get into those people leading up to the first king. Now, there is not much in this in the way of history. There is a whole lot of genealogy. The difficulties that occur in these former genealogies, if you're keeping track of how they're formed, well, Ezra took them as he found them in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah, we find in chapter 9. Some are going to ascend, and some are going to descend. Some start with the sons, some start with the fathers, and say, oh, these people were sons of who? Others say, here's the father, here's the sons. Some have numbers affixed to them. Others have faces affixed to them, where each one was. Some have historical remarks intermixed through them. Others don't. Some are shorter, some are longer. Some are with other records, some differ. Those of Dan and Reuben are entirely missing here. Is directing the returned captives to settle as nearly as they can within the bounds of their own family as they were before, to give them the places of their former residence. Bring these captives back and place them down where they'll be able to share the land with some equanimity, pretty much as they left it, as well as they can remember. This tribe of Benjamin was once brought to a rather low number. In the time of the judges, after the iniquity of Gibeah, there were only 600 men that escaped the sword. In these genealogies, it makes a pretty good number, almost like any other tribes. It's the honor of God to help the weak. There is mention here in verse 6 of Ehud. Now, in the preceding verse, verse 5, mention of Gera, and verse 8, of one that descends from him, that beget children in Moab. Since these people were against Moab, this Ehud may be the second of the judges of Israel, because it said that the son of Gera is a Benjamite. And he delivered Israel from the opposition of the Moabites, became the king of Moab, which were given some influence there. And maybe some of his people would live there and beget children in Moab, as it says in verse 8. Now, there's mention of some of the Benjamites that drove away the inhabitants of Gath, perhaps in remembrance of those that had slain the Ephraimites that we saw in chapter 7, or their posterity. One of those that did this bit of justice was Beriah, too, which was a name that had been given in memorial of that injury. A name meaning bad times, because the father was mourning at the time for those who had been killed. Now, particular notice here for those that dwelt in Jerusalem, in verse 28 and again in verse 32. If we could induce them to get back to Jerusalem, that would be a good thing. As I said, a lot of this was to bring them together as tribes of Israel, give them national identity, and put them in some place when they came back, to order things. Here's where you were, so let's get back to that. And getting them in Jerusalem wasn't that easy, because it was a dangerous post. So in Nehemiah, chapter 11 and verse 2, we read that the people blessed those who willingly offered themselves to dwell in Jerusalem. Most of them were inclined to go to the city of Judah. And so here it particularly points out those that had come from there and hopes they would go back. Now let's see. This brings us up to verse 33, and we'll do 33 to 40 here. The genealogy leads up to our first king soon. In verse 33 of chapter 8. And Ner begat Kish, and Kish begat Saul, and Saul begat Jonathan, and Malchishua, and Abinadab, and Eshbaal. And the son of Jonathan was Meribbaal, and Meribbaal begat Micah. And the sons of Micah were Pithon, and Melech, and Tariah, and Ahaz. And Ahaz begat Jehoiada, and Jehoiada begat Elameth, and Azmaveth, and Zimri begat Moza, and Moza begat Benaiah. Ratha was his son, Eliasa his son, Azel his son. And Azel had 6 sons, whose names are these: Azrikam, Bocher, and Ishmael, and Shemariah, and Obadiah, and Hanan. And these were the sons of Aziel. And the sons of Eshek, his brother, were Ulam, his firstborn, Jehush, his second, and Eliphelet, his third. And the sons of Ulam were mighty men of valor, archers, and had many sons, and sons' sons, 150. And these are the sons of Benjamin. So, here in this last part of chapter 8, we find that among the genealogies of the tribes, you'll see there's no mention of any of the kings of Israel after the house of David was set aside, when they defected from them. There is not a word about Jeroboam's house, or Baasha's, or Omri's, or Jehu's. They were all idolaters. The family of Saul was the family before the elevation of David. Here we hear a particular account of that. Before Saul, Kish, and Ner are named, the father and grandfather, in verse 33. In 1 Samuel, chapter 9, verse 1, only there Kish is said to be the son of Abiel. Here, said he's son of Ner. He's the son of Ner, but the grandson of Abiel. It appears in 1 Samuel 14:51, where it's said that Ner was the son of Abiel, and that Abner, who was the son of Ner, was Saul's uncle. So that's where it's at. Now, after Saul, there are various sons named. The posterity of none of those sons except Jonathan. A Jonathan who is blessed with numerous people after him and honored in these sacred genealogies for his sincere kindness to David, I'm sure, who was as close a friend with David as anyone could be. Now, David may have been, in a manner, particularly careful to preserve this and assign it a page by itself somewhere, because of the covenant made between him and the seed of Jonathan's seed. And so here, the seed of Jonathan's seed is preserved in the genealogies. The genealogy ends in Ulam. His family is famous in the tribe of Benjamin for their number of valiant men. That one man's posterity, there it shows, had at one time 150 archers brought into the field of battle. Mighty men of valor, as it says in verse 40. So his kids did well in the military. And that brings us to our last chapter tonight, before we get into talking about Saul and the Philistines coming against Israel. We got the Israelites here, we got the priests, the Levites, and other Nethinim. The jobs for the priests and Levites that they're given, and a repetition of the genealogy of King Saul. And that brings us right up to where we get into Saul. So we're going to start out with verses 1 to 13, and then comment on those ones. Chapter 9 of 1 Chronicles, starting with verses 1 to 13. So all Israel were reckoned by genealogies. And behold, they're written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah, who were carried away to Babylon for their transgression. Now, the first inhabitants that dwelt in their possessions in their cities were the Israelites, the priests, Levites, and the Nethinims. And in Jerusalem dwelt the children of Judah, and of the children of Benjamin, and of the children of Ephraim, and Manasseh. Uthai, the son of Amihud, the son of Omri, the son of Imri, the son of Bani, and the children of Pharez, the son of Judah. And of Shilonites, Asaiah, the firstborn, and his sons. And of the sons of Zerah, Jael, and their brethren, 690. And of the sons of Benjamin, Salu, the son of Meshullam, the son of Hodaviah, the son of Hasanua, and Ibnaiah, the son of Jeroham, and Elah, the son of Uzi, the son of Mitri, and Meshullam, the son of Shephathiah, the son of Reuel, the son of Ibnijah, and their brethren, according to their generations, 956. Now, all these men were chief of the fathers in the house of their fathers. And Azariah, the son of Hilkiah, the son of Meshullam, the son of Zadok, the son of Meriah, the son of Ahitub, the ruler of the house of God, and Adiah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Pashur, the son of Malchijah, and Maaseiah, the son of Adiel, the son of Jazerah, the son of Meshullam, the son of Meshullemith, the son of Immer, and their brethren, heads of the house of their fathers, 1,760, very able men for the work of the service of the house of God. So in our first 13 verses, we look back on the genealogies before, and we see they're gathered out of the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. Mentioning Israel and Judah, it makes notice of them being carried away into Babylon for their transgression. And whenever we speak of our calamities that befall us, it can be good to add, it was for my transgression. God can be justified and clear when he judges. Then follows an account of the first inhabitants to return from captivity. They dwelt in their cities, especially in Jerusalem. The Israelites, a general name is used here in verse 2, because you got people from Judah and Benjamin, and there are many in Ephraim and Manasseh as well. Now, the other 10 tribes. It was foretold that the children of Judah and of Israel should be gathered together and come out of the land. That was in Hosea 1:11. It was foretold that they should be a nation again as well, in Ezekiel 37:22. And so here we see that sort of thing. They are there together. Various ones are named, many more are numbered, who were chief of the fathers, who ought to be remembered with honor, as Israelites indeed. The priests, by the time we get to verse 10, they came here with the very first. Who else would lead the good work except the priests, the Lord's ministers? People should bring their religion with them first, and their relation with God they should look to first in any enterprise. And so the priests are here. One of them, it said, was a ruler in the house of God there in verse 11. Not the chief ruler, Joshua being the high priest, but a ruler that would help keep the law there and keep everything in order. It said that many of them, that they were able men for the service of the house of God in verse 13. In 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 6, we also read, who also hath made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. The letter killeth, and the Spirit giveth life. So able men for the service then, and able men for such service now, should we be. The service of the temple was required at all times, especially now at this critical time when they had newly come out of Babylon. They needed courage and energy of their mind and their body at this time. And that brings us to verse 14, and we will go from there down to verse 34. And the Levites, Shemaiah, the son of Hashub, the son of Azrikam, the son of Hashabiah, of the sons of Merari, and Bakbakar, Harish, and Galal, and Mattaniah, the son of Micah, the son of Zichri, the son of Asaph, and Obadiah, the son of Shemaiah, the son of Galal, the son of Jeduthun, and Berechiah, the son of Asa, the son of Elkanah, that dwelt in the villages of the Netophathites. And the porters were Shallum, and Akub, and Talmon, and Ahiman, and their brethren. The Shallum was the chief, who hitherto waited in the king's gate eastward. They were porters in the companies of the children of Levi. And Shallum, the son of Korah, the son of Eliasaph, the son of Korah, and his brethren of the house of his father, the Korahites, were over the work of the service, keepers of the gates of the tabernacle, and their fathers, being over the host of the Lord, were keepers of the entry. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, was the ruler over them in times past, and the Lord was with him. And Zechariah, the son of Meshulamiah, was porter of the door of the tabernacles of the congregation. All these which were chosen to be porters in the gates were 212. These were reckoned by their genealogy in their villages, whom David and Samuel, the seer, did ordain in their set office. So they and their children had the oversight of the gates of the house of the Lord, namely, the house of the tabernacle by wards, and 4 quarters of the porters, toward the east, west, north, and south. And their brethren, of which were in the villages, were to come after 7 days from time to time with them. For these Levites, the 4 chief porters, were in their set office, and were over the chambers and treasuries of the house of God. And they lodged round about the house of God, because the charge was upon them, and the opening thereof every morning pertained to them. And certain of them had the charge of the ministering vessels, and they should bring them in and out by tale. Some of them were appointed to oversee the vessels and all the instruments of the sanctuary, and use the fine flour and the wine and the oil and the frankincense and the spices. And some of the sons of the priests made the ointment of the spices. And Mattathiah, one of the Levites, who was the firstborn of Shallum, a Korahite, had the set office over the things that were made in the pans. And other of the brethren, the sons of the Kohathites, were over the showbread to prepare it every Sabbath. And these are the singers, chief of the fathers of the Levites, who, remaining in the chambers, were free, for they were employed in that work day and night. These chief fathers of the Levites were chief throughout their generations. These dwelt at Jerusalem. So that's them and their tasks. We have here the affairs of the church at this time, their religion, as they have just immediately returned from Babylon. Before the house of the Lord was built, they had the tabernacle, of course. And at that time, it was a movable tent, and they made use of it. You don't let God's work be left undone because you don't have a place to do it. You can always have yourself a place to do it. So, allotting the priests and Levites their employment. They looked to what David and Samuel had put together. It says in verse 22. Now, most of them go to Jerusalem. Some dwelt in the villages. But those that were employed in service of the tabernacle, they were to come after 7 days from time to time. And they had like a week's attendance in turns there. Many of the Levites are porters at the gates to the house of God, 4 chief porters, under them others, bringing the number up to 212 altogether. They had the oversight of the gates, keepers of the thresholds, and keepers of the entry. They would, open the house every morning, shut it up at night, keep out the unclean, those who were not allowed in. When people did come into the courts of the Lord to worship, they direct them where to go, what to do, and keep everything in good order. Ministers have that sort of work to do. Now, there's a guy here, Phinehas, son of Eleazar, that's said to rule over them in time past. Not the famous high priest of that name, but it seems to be an eminent Levite here. It is said the Lord was with him. Some of them, it says they lodged round about the house of God because of the charge on them. Levites pitched around the tabernacle when they marched to the wilderness, and they pitched their tents down. Same here. Well, there were porters back then too. They bear the burdens of the sanctuary. Each had their thing to carry. Now, they're porters in another sense at the gates and the doors, keeping charge of the sanctuary. Everyone knows their job there, and they're all set in charge of something in particular. Some with the plates, the ministering vessels, bring them in and out. People that prepare the fine flour, wine, and oil. Some priests that make the holy anointing oil. Some take care of meat offerings, others show bread. And singers are employed to work day and night, it says. The chief or the fathers of the Levites, which make a business of it. Like that true tabernacle in heaven where the praise never ends. So likewise, they tried that here. Very nice. They remain in the chambers of the temple. It says of them that they can constantly attend it, these singers. Now, the temple, in this way, is a figure of the heavenly one, as I mentioned. They rest not day or night from praising God, as it says in Revelation 4:8. And blessed are those that dwell in thy house. They will be still praising thee. And so they have the singers there all the time. And that brings us to the last bit, 35 to 44. Starting with 35. And Gibeon dwelt the father of Gibeon, Jehiel, whose wife's name was Maacah, and the firstborn son, Abdon, then Zur, and Kish, and Baal, and Ner, and Nadab, and Gedor, and Ahio, and Zechariah, and Mikloth, And Mikloth begat Shimea. And they also dwelt with their brethren at Jerusalem, over against their brethren. And Ner begat Kish, and Kish begat Saul, and Saul begat Jonathan, and Malchishua, and Abinadab, and Eshbaal. And the son of Jonathan was Meribbaal, and Meribbaal begat Micah. And the sons of Micah were Pithon, Melech, and Tareah, and Ahaz. And Ahaz begat Jarah, and Jarah begat Alameth, and Asmaveth, and Zimri. And Zimri begat Moza. And Moza begat Benaiah, and Rathiah, his son, Eliasaph, his son, Ezel, his son. And Azel had 6 sons, whose names are these: Azrikam, Bokeru, and Ishmael, and Sheariah, and Obadiah, and Hanan. These were the sons of Azel. Right. This is the same as back in chapter 8, verses 29-38. The ancestors of Saul, posterity of Jonathan. That's the conclusion of genealogy of Benjamin, and an introduction to the story of Saul, which we will take up next time in chapter 10. Until then, I thank everyone who has watched us live or will catch us on the archives on our YouTube channel, where we keep all of our Bible studies and our Sunday sermons. And I'd ask the Lord to bless us in our going out. And Father God, I thank you for this time we have spent in your living word. And I ask you that you will bless us in our going out as you did in our coming in. For all those out on the highways tonight, Lord, I ask that you send your angels before them to spring every trap of the enemy, and that you kindle that flame in their hearts that leads them into your word every day, not just Sundays and Bible studies, that leads them to all wisdom in your word that you have laid up for them. And Lord, I ask that you might bring a few past our door, that we might serve them in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. And I thank you most for your Son, whose substitutionary sacrifice on the cross brought our salvation through faith in him. And in his name I pray, and amen. And that's the end of our Bible study for tonight. And we'll get into Saul next time.